Would I be the asshole if I stopped being friends with somebody who has no other friends? So when I, 21 female, started working at my current job with the shipment warehouse 2 years ago, I befriended a coworker whom I share some interests with, whom we'll call him 27 male. When we first met, I was 19 and he was 25. When he learned that I'm an art major, he got really excited and started talking to me about his creative writing project. I write my own stories too, and originally we had some good, fun exchanging of ideas and trying to solve plot problems together. As time went on, though, I found that many aspects of his personality aggravated me. He's very self-absorbed for one. Colin is the type to ask you a leading question to start a conversation, only to interrupt you mid-sentence or answer the question himself and dominate the conversation with his own thoughts for an endless amount of time. He calls himself an empath, and once he told me that when his friend's dog died, he claimed to have felt more sad than the kid that was crying in class about his dead dog because it hurt him to see his friend in pain. He repeats the exact same conversations with me over and over again when he runs out of things to talk about, so I've had the exact same conversations with him about police brutality, AI art, and building a social media following with art over 5 times each. He's very unreliable, and he has a horrible reputation at work for avoiding work, sneaking off shifts with no warning, and complaining to managers until they send him somewhere else. I started avoiding talking to him at work sometime last year, as eventually he began using it as an excuse to follow me around without lifting anything, and only chatting without ever working in hopes that I wouldn't notice. Over time, this turned into some resentment, as I'm much smaller and weaker than him, but I'm relied on by managers a lot more because he's known for not doing anything. He's actually been fired or has quit a total of 4 times now. But even in the present day, he is still there. He also makes these really big plans and then never follows through on them, even to the detriment of others. I'll give 2 examples. So our job does a college reimbursement voucher program up to $5,500 a year towards tuition as long as you pass all of your classes and work at the company for the entire duration of the semester. Last year, before the 2023 spring semester, he made me have the same discussion with him every shift for a whole week because he couldn't decide whether or not he wanted to attend school anymore. He had been going through college for about 7 years at this point, but somehow hadn't even earned an associate's degree. I advised that he could always return when he felt ready, and it was best to attend with confidence rather than doubts. He thanked me and said that he wouldn't attend college that semester, but that same week, his sister convinced him to give college one last shot. We ended up sharing a class together for that semester, but on the first day, he tried talking to me throughout the lecture, and I told him that I wanted to focus on the slides so I could finish homework. He got upset, played games on his phone till the lecture ended, and never showed up to that class after the first day. He attended some other classes for maybe 2 weeks, ghosted them for 3, and then finally dropped all of his classes when it was well past the drop date where he could get a refund on tuition. Meaning he was liable for the cost as he never finished the classes and EdCore wouldn't cover for him. Fast forward to the end of the semester, and I'm coincidentally in HR getting a new ID while he's filling out his EdCore grade submissions. I think it's weird as he discussed with me every step as he missed the drop deadline and never finished classes. So I'll admit I snooped over his shoulder because I wanted to know what he thought he was doing. He was submitting a false Photoshop transcript that said that he finished all of his classes. I was floored and kind of livid. I knew that he had previously photoshopped doctor's notes to get out of work, but photoshopping a transcript to steal money from an education program felt all kinds of wrong. I thought it was super cowardly and dickish of him, but I'm very non-confrontational, so I left the HR office mad when I probably should have said something to HR about the false submission. The next semester, without warning, EdCore changed their policy of directly paying the school up front in the form of vouchers. Now everyone was required to pay the tuition themselves, and only after final grades were verified would they start handing out money. I wasn't given notice that this change was going to happen, so I was forced to put the cost of the semester on my credit card just to continue forward with classes, which means I accumulated 30% of my tuition costs and interest that I had to work off myself. Maybe it's unfair to blame him for the change, but the timing of all of it just seems way too convenient. It makes me wonder if he's responsible. How much debt had he strapped other coworkers with by no longer having access to vouchers? All because he didn't want to hold himself accountable for a fuck up that he was warned about dozens of times by me personally. For the last year now, he's been trying to move states. He used to have online friends from that state, but eventually him backing out of moving plans over and over again soured their relationship. One friend in specific he coordinated a specific move-in date with, and that friend got a slightly pricier apartment with 2 rooms to accommodate Colin. Well, Colin decided last minute that he wasn't ready for such a big move if his mom couldn't also move in with him. He kept changing the plan, and eventually the online friend had to rent out the room that he was keeping for Colin just to afford rent. From what I can tell, they don't talk much anymore. So here's the thing. Even if we started off bonding over storytelling, I feel like I can't stand him anymore. I still try to be nice when he's around, but it feels very forced and two-faced of me. I don't want to be a false friend to him, but he makes me feel really guilty as he'll randomly send me long messages thanking me for his friendship and claiming he has no one else and his depression is lessened thanks to my companionship, and his new friendships never last longer than a couple of months. So it almost feels wrong to ditch him, but I really don't like him that much as a person, seeing the way he behaves at work, or even just the careless way that he treats his friends with false plans, makes me resent him. It feels unfair to him to be a friend that secretly dislikes him, and I don't think it's fair to me that I feel emotionally responsible for the guy. It just feels hard to make the assertion that we're not friends as we still work together and he keeps trying to involve me in his story idea. Any advice on how to politely end this properly would be appreciated. He's super sensitive, and this has started some drama involving him in work before. If there's any way to end this with no drama, then I'm hoping for that outcome. Any advice from people who have had to deal with similar circumstances would be appreciated. My daughter is having an affair with the married neighbor. I told her she needs to move out of my house. Last week, I caught my daughter, 21, leaving our neighbor's house early in the morning. I was getting a drink around 3 in the morning, and I watched her leave their house, and she snuck across the yard and went through our basement door. Our neighbor is married and probably 30. I assume his wife was gone for the night as her car wasn't there. The next morning, I went down to my daughter's room and confronted her. At first, she denied it, but she eventually said that she had been sleeping with him for a couple of months. I lost it at that point, and I yelled at her, telling her he is married and she is helping to ruin a marriage. I told her that she needs to tell the wife or she needs to move out. She's clearly upset and thinking I'm overreacting. My wife is also thinking I'm going too far. I get that the neighbor is the main issue, but I'm really disappointed in my daughter. She knows his wife and has even babysat for them. Is telling her to confess or move out too far? Edit. Okay. Wow, thank you all for responding. I'm sorry I couldn't respond to more of you. Some context I failed to put in here. My wife is very upset. She isn't siding in the affair. In fact, she was cheated on by an ex. Ooh. She understands this better than I do. I think that it's a big part of why I'm so angry. My wife is also a better person than me. She's the only reason I'm the man I am today. I have too much respect to let people, even anonymously, insinuate that she is the problem here. I should have done a better job in explaining her side. Any comments saying anything bad about my wife will be met with a big F you. No. Writing all this out and reading comments has been incredibly helpful. I haven't changed my mind, but it made me think about the situation more, especially looking at the future in my relationship with my daughter. I just shot a text to my daughter and apologized for my anger and asked her to go get a drink with me tonight and talk. I told her I'm sorry I didn't ask her how she is feeling. I need to get my composure back before my next work call here in a few minutes, but will continue to read and reply to comments as I have time today. For those of you who think she would stop talking to us if we kicked her out, I raised her to be independent and accept consequences for her own actions. It's hard to explain our relationship, but I know she wouldn't stop talking to us if we did force her to move. She also would figure it out on her own. She's a smart woman. She would live out of our house, not our life. I'm always her dad. On that side note, this is the dad writing, not the mom, as some of you thought. Also, not worried about violence for my neighbor's wife. Unfortunately, she is a very sweet woman, which makes everything worse. but I wouldn't put my daughter in danger. I confirm my daughter hasn't told the husband we know. I will be watching his behavior as I'm not sure how he will react. Last thing, as I find is funny, I was drinking water, not alcohol, when I saw her. I woke up and I went to the kitchen and I saw her from the window, but I do appreciate the links to Alcohol Anonymous.
Oh my God.
And then another update. Sorry I didn't update this last night. Forgot there were basketball games on and fell asleep watching. I went out for drinks with my daughter. It was awkward at first. We just talked about work and her schooling for a while. It felt nice to talk about normal things for a bit. At some point, she just asked me if I was proud of her, and I broke down when she asked me that. I said, yes, I'm proud of you, though I'm not proud of the mistakes that you made. I talked a bit about why what she did made me so upset, but that nothing she could ever do would make me love her less. She told me about how she got involved with a neighbor. I won't share too much. It's nothing terrible, like many of you are assuming. They knew each other as they had her babysit their baby over the last year. One night she was out with friends and ran into the husband at the bar. That's when things progressed and the affair started. During this same time, she was going through a breakup that was rough. I knew she was going through that, but I didn't realize how bad it was. I told her that she's an adult and responsible for her own actions, that I don't want her in my house doing things like this. We talked about telling the wife. My daughter is scared to tell her. She isn't sure how the husband will react once the affair is out. I'm going to go with her tomorrow while the husband is at work and tell her together. My daughter also wants to move out. She said it's something that she's been thinking about before, and now she said it would be awkward with this thing being in the open. She started to cry about how she didn't realize the damage that she was doing, knowing that she is the other woman and helped to break up or at least hurt this marriage. I've talked about her mom and her past and what that has done to her. That's about it. We cried together, had tough discussions. Tomorrow we will let the wife know, and I'll help my daughter move to my sister's place for a while. I told her things will probably get worse before they get better.
A planned pregnancy turned my husband into a monster. It feels like a cruel joke. Years before I met my husband, it was such a toxic, abusive relationship that it almost ended my life. I spent years in therapy bettering myself, figuring out why I accepted that type of love. I stayed single for years, and once I started dating, I made sure to keep an eye on all the red flags. Heck, I even took things slowly when there was nothing but green flags. Thanks to my ex, I was familiar with love bombing. I met my husband at a work event, and things just fell into place. I opened up and explained my past trauma and let him know that if we were going to date, that it would require a slow pace and patience. I won't say that he was perfect, but he was always kind, compassionate, and cared. We dated for about 5 years. Engaged for 1 and married for a little over 3 years now. We recently bought our second home together. We both got promotions at work, so we sat down and talked about kids. He wanted a big family, and I only wanted 1 or 2. We agreed on 2 and, well, started trying. It didn't take long, and here I am 6 months pregnant, still working, have swollen ankles, and a back that won't stop aching. Other than that, I've been very happy and have what I thought was a supportive husband. 3 weeks ago, I found out that he was having an emotional affair, and honestly, probably a physical one. When confronted with the evidence, he admitted to not being attracted to me while pregnant. I'm wrecked. I haven't gained unnecessary weight. I still take care of myself, even with the morning sickness that hasn't gone away. He's not sorry about it, but told me that I was being overdramatic when I cried. He is staying with his family until he can find a home to rent. He doesn't want to get a divorce, saying after the pregnancy is over, we can go to therapy and fix things. I don't want to. I cannot physically look this man in the eye anymore without feeling disgust. I have a text from him saying that he's my only option because no man wants to date a single mom. I'll be talking to a lawyer and figuring out how to divorce him. I just wanted to vent into the void today. For now, I'm going to DoorDash some nuggets and a Frosty from Wendy's and be okay if I gain 5 pounds from it. This is why it's so scary for a woman to get married. I know guys are always like, oh, she's a gold digger, blah, 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 blah. But imagine, right? Her body is going through a biological change because she's carrying a child. And what does he say? I'm not attracted to you during pregnancy. What can you do with that? I've seen so many of these stories where these men just go psychologically insane when their wife gets pregnant.
My boyfriend got rid of my collection without asking me, but says he didn't do it to hurt me. How do I get past this? We have been together for 1.5 years, and I recently found out that I'm pregnant with our first child. Since I was 12, I've collected a particular type of dolls, associated merchandise, and I'm really passionate about it. I have a pretty extensive collection after 13 years. Obviously, now that I'm not 12 anymore, I don't play with them, but I have a couple shelves in my office, a few of my favorites in the bedroom, and a few on the bookshelf in the living room. He has said before he thought they were more for kids, but at the same time, he bought me dolls, even helping me find rare ones at times, so I thought he came around to them, and I was surprised to find, after going to visit my dad for a few days, that he had gotten rid of my entire collection when I came back. Everything is gone. I haven't stopped crying since I got back, and we had the biggest fight. He said he made the decision because now that we're having a baby, it's time for me to grow up and get rid of them.